I am so excited to say, Jesse Garcia, welcome to Out of the Spotlight.
Hi.
Thank you so much for making time. Looks like you've been extremely busy.
A little bit. A little bit.
Just a little.
Yeah.
It's been a very exciting year, I'm sure. And your new movie, Flamin Hot, will be out on June 9th on Hulu and Disney Plus. So how excited are you?
You know, I'm having a moment and I'm not mad about it.
I love that. I love that. Well, before we get into all of the fun stuff that you're doing, I always like to start this off with, getting to know you a little bit better, kind of going back in time. So tell us about, where were you born? Where are you from?
I was born in a small town called Rawlins, Wyoming. Grew up in Rawlins and Hannah, which was a neighboring town for most of my youth. We traveled, we kind of moved around Rawlins, Hannah, Laramie, a little bit of Colorado. But we would just move around, basically going wherever my dad could find work, But I left Wyoming at 20, went to school in Nebraska for a year, and then moved to Atlanta in 2000 to start acting, and then LA in 2003, and I've been here, back and forth between here and Austin.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Austin. I'm in Houston, so
okay,
kind of neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot,
so cool.
Should have came to a screening a few weeks ago.
I kid you not. I saw that the day, probably like an hour after it ended, and like the theater was like 30 minutes away from where I live. So,
oh man, so many people didn't show up because it rained.
Yeah, it was pouring. I would have gone. Like, I'm not, people are
I was
scared of rain here.
I was a little disappointed.
Well, next time I will be there and I will spread the word for sure.
All right. Next movie.
Absolutely. So what were you like as a kid? Like, were you outgoing? Were you shy?
I think it was probably, I don't know. I was probably more shy, but more out of, because I got picked on a lot as a kid. Right. So I would try to blend in and not get picked on. The kids were the kids, kids are kids, and they would pick and choose when they wanted to like you and when they didn't, and it was just weird small town stuff. So I didn't really kind of like come out of my shell a little bit until I started joining sports, wrestling and football, and late middle school, high school, and then I was still introverted.
Yeah, like an introvert kind
of. More introverted, but like when I was doing my thing, I was stoked. When I was in environment, I was stoked. But like otherwise, it's
no, absolutely. And it's such an important topic, especially nowadays. With like social media, I feel like people can pick on others like so easy.
I'm so glad I didn't have social media when I went to high school and middle school.
Same here. No, well, thank you for sharing that, and that's pretty awesome that now you're like, do y'all want to come to my movie premiere or what? Yeah. And at what moment did you realize that acting is something that you wanted to do?
So I was going to school, University of Nebraska, on a cheerleading scholarship. And one of my friends, this girl who was in one of my classes, we saw each other on campus one day, and we're talking about, I was 21, I just turned 21, and she was 19, talking about what we wanted to do with our lives, right? And then I was going to school for exercise science and kinesiology, and I was going to be a trainer or something, I don't know. And she was like, oh, I want to be an actor, model, something. I'm like, oh, that'd be fun. Because I always thought it'd be fun to do plays, but I never had time. Like it just wasn't on the radar. It just wasn't a priority. And acting was never like even a goal, or like nothing I ever thought that could be real. And she goes, I'm going to go to this actor model search thing in Chicago in a couple of weeks. I'm like, dope, let me know. And she went, and I saw her on campus a few weeks later, and she told me about it. She got invited to take these classes in Atlanta from this dude named Judson Vaughn at this place called What Films. And she goes, I got invited to go take classes. She goes, you should come with me. And I'm like, I was like, one, I think like, I don't know you. And two, like, I don't really know you. And three, I have a full ride cheerleading scholarship. I'm like, what's this? Life is pretty easy. But I thought about it, and I called her back. Said, tell me more about this guy. So Judson and I got on the phone for about 45 minutes. And within that call, I decided I was going to drop everything in Nebraska and move to Atlanta. So a week later, I went to Wyoming to talk to my parents and tell them I was going to move to Atlanta, and they were like, "Cool, let us know if you need any help." Which tripped me out because my mom freaked out. I moved 3 hours away the first time. She told me later. She told me, she goes, "I thought you'd hate it, and 6 months later come back to Wyoming," and that was,
Oh,
23 years ago.
wow.
So I went back to Nebraska, picked up my friend Jen, and drove straight through to Atlanta. Summer of like Memorial Day. Was Memorial Day last weekend? It was.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So Memorial Day weekend 2000 was my 23rd anniversary of moving to Atlanta, right? So I've been doing this for 23 years. So I moved to Atlanta, started acting there, got my first movie in like 4 or 5 months, I think. It was like a little small supporting part in a slapstick comedy. And just kind of kept going, stayed there for 3 years, moved to LA in 2003, then back and forth between Austin and LA since 2013.
And that just shows that when you want to do something, you just got to go for it.
Just got to go for it. Yeah. Yeah. And I made the decision that I wasn't going to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, I failed a bunch, but,
Life.
but I wasn't going to quit.
And now we're talking about your movie that's, about to premiere. So, nope, yeah, I love that. And something else, about you is that, because of that decision that you made, you've been part of some really great TV film moments. And how much does it mean to you to be able to represent the Hispanic community?
When I didn't even, when I first started, I didn't really know the politics of Hollywood, right? I didn't know that it was a struggle for representation, right? But when the road trip down from Lincoln, Nebraska to Atlanta, Georgia, in my head, my goal was, I want to get to a point in my career where I am successful enough that I can reach my hand back and pull people up with me, right? Or present opportunities for jobs and whatever other people wanted to do, whether it was costumes and or catering or whatever it was, right? And I have been able to do that over the years. I've been able to call someone up and say, "Hey, you should call this person for this role, or you should call this DP or whatever it is." I suppose that's called producing. But on that trip, I was like, I want to be able to open doors for everybody, doesn't matter who they are, but, Latinos specifically. But I didn't really know the politics of it, right? And then as I got to know the politics more of like what representation is and how the lack of representation is over the years. And also I think what actors and directors and producers don't really realize is when they become someone that's recognizable, whether you're an actor, director, producer, writer, whatever it is that you kind of have whether you want it or not, you have a social responsibility to, have an opinion, whether you're for or you're against, to be a good representative of you specifically, but also like your culture, right? And to see how we can make things more fair. And for me, Flamin Hot was an important movie because I feel like it transcends cultural lines, that everyone can relate to the movie in one way or another, whether it's like you watch the movie because you need something of faith, right? And Richard and Judy have their own version of faith, and you have your version of faith. I have my version of faith, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with religion, and everyone's been the underdog at some point. Everyone's, not known when to, if they can continue, if they should quit, whatever it is. So like, I think I'm cool with being a voice, and I think there's different ways of being a voice. And for me, it's finding universal appeal, telling universal stories, like Flamin' Hot, where we transcend that, where people it just happens to be about a Mexican-American family, but what this Mexican-American family is going through, everyone goes through. You could be Russian, German, African, doesn't matter. And they go, "Oh, okay, I can relate to that because I have a dream too."
Oh, I love that. Something that you mentioned was just, the representation. And I read somewhere not too long ago about how even kids, like they're more likely to succeed if there's someone that looks like them doing, like the work that perhaps they either admire other people doing it, something, if it's something that they eventually want to do. And I think it's pretty amazing that there's a lot of kids I know that will be like, oh my gosh, I can be like Jesse one day. So
what's funny is because I even before I decided to start acting, it's like I didn't know why La Bamba was impactful to me. It was unconscious that I saw representation, and when I grew up as a kid, I didn't really like Spanish music. I didn't like Mexican music. It just wasn't, whether I was trying to unconsciously assimilate to not get picked on, or whatever shame I had of my own culture, whatever that was when I was growing up. But there was still something with El Mariachi was the same way. I didn't like my Spanish, especially back then, was terrible. It's much better now, but it's not great. That it really spoke to me. El Mariachi is like, I don't know why it does.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was a little kid, so nobody was telling me that this is the new cool thing. It was just, I watched it so many times, and then as I got older, to see movies like Next Friday and Jacob Vargas and all the other guys that were in the movie, going, oh man, those guys are funny, it'd be great to do. And like, now they're my peers and my friends, what I mean? We support each other. So it's, it gets to be a shared responsibility that like we rise together, like one win at a time.
So crazy. You just mentioned La Bamba, because I just interviewed Lou Diamond Phillips over the weekend. He was in town in Houston, and it's so crazy, right? It's like a full circle. And there were so many people there. It was for Comic Palooza, asking him questions. And it's just, it's amazing that you just brought that up. It's so crazy. And for me, like someone that like growing up, it was like the 2000s. It was like, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and then all of a sudden comes Jennifer Lopez, someone that kind of, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're Hispanic. Oh my gosh, so am I. So I can relate to that, where, there is someone that kind of, represents you, resembles like your family, whatnot. But leading with that, you just did a film with Jennifer Lopez, The Mother, on Netflix. So good. And you're such a nice guy, I can tell, but in the movie, not so much, like kind of scary, not gonna lie. So how did you prepare for such an intense role like that one?
Those roles are easy for me.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I feel like I feel like past lives must have something to do with like actors' ranges. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, I don't know. So like I'm definitely a weirdo. The quirk definitely comes out. Even in action movies like that, there's quirky things that I'll integrate into whatever I'm doing. It's just like, you wouldn't think of me, snorting the cocaine and kind of like just a weird way. That movie was a lot of fun. The prep for that was just kind of like making sure my legs were in shape to do all the running. That was the prep for that. And I had a pretty bad knee injury during that whole thing. Torn meniscus, and it was a tough run.
No big deal. Are you kidding me? That's like intense.
It wasn't fun. It was like I had a great time shooting the movie, but I was definitely in a lot of pain. Yeah. Wow. It was 3 weeks of running. We shot that. It took 3 weeks to shoot all the running stuff.
And you were injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
In soccer, you would have been like on the injury report list.
Yeah, I probably would have had surgery right away. Yeah. But Jen was great. She was very sweet. The whole cast and crew were very sweet. Amari Hardwick was a dream. I think it's that's another one of those Universal movies that, I don't think people realize that was a predominantly diverse cast.
Yeah.
You look back and you go, oh, okay. And most of that cast were people of color.
No, I definitely noticed that. And, everyone also was talking about the scenes of, when you're getting slapped by Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How many takes?
That scene is so funny because everyone of my friends text me like, what was it like getting beat up by Jen? I'm like, dude, although my hands were tied up and like there was like a lot of hits, some of them, it was all choreographed, but I told her one day, I go, you're gonna hit me, dude. And she goes, I'm not gonna hit you. I'm like, you're getting close, you're gonna hit me. And she nicked me on one of the hits, and afterwards she like finished the scene and she grabs my face. She goes, I'm so sorry. I fucking told you you're gonna hit me. But it was all good. Like,
you called it.
She barely got it.
Well, I applaud y'all for that. Such a good movie. And now we have to talk about Flamin Hot. I mean, the buzz is all over social media. I feel like every time I open my Instagram or whatnot, someone's talking about it. Really, I promise. So I'm stoked. I'm excited. What can you tell us about the movie and your character?
Well, I play Richard Montañez, and it's about his rise from, well, it's a love letter, right? Between him and Judy and the family, and how they came up with the hot chili, the hot slurry, that became the sensation that it is today for hot Cheetos. And he started out as a janitor at Frito-Lay and eventually became one of the most recognizable, PepsiCo execs who went around the world doing motivational speaking and teaching everybody, ways of marketing toward the Hispanic market.
Something else that I also like about the movie, it's what you mentioned about the mother, just how the diversity of it. And even someone that I saw is in it, Tony Shalhoub, and he's so good because I've been watching him in another series. So what was it like, working with the entire cast?
Miss Maisel? Marvelous Miss Maisel?
Yes, I just watched the last episode yesterday. I'm so upset that it's over.
I'm not caught up, but
So
it's so good.
So good.
He is awesome. We talked about it a little bit. He's shy, but he's so good. He just did such an interesting take on Enrico. And he was so nice. Like, he just seemed like he had the best time. Yeah, I think it's one of those movies where I think it kind of, you watch the movie and it sneaks up on you a bit, where everyone relates to it and everyone's crying and everyone laughs and everyone has moments, and at the end of it you think it's a beautiful story, and then you go, oh, it's a Mexican American story, but it's a universal story that everyone can relate to.
Someone else that I truly admire, because she's all about representation and creating jobs, opportunities, and stories for the Latino community, is Eva Longoria. What was it like working with her and, kind of being part of this magical production that she's putting together?
Her and I, it's hard to describe what our relationship is because we can look, we have to, if we're kind of like at a business, like an event or a business thing, if we sit next to each other, we're going to get in trouble. Like, we're those two kids at the table that we're going to get in trouble for laughing and talking during a serious event. But we have so much fun. We just did another movie together where we actually got to act together and play a mom and dad to a couple of kids, and we were mom and dad on set, and we were wrangling kids and being just a bunch of kids ourselves, and they couldn't find us because we were looking at rocks somewhere. Like, look at this rock, this one's really cool. And that's a true story. But she's awesome, man. Like, we could look at each other from across the room and know what the other one's thinking and laughing, and from getting teasing each other about something or aliens and conspiracies and the pyramids and whether we're in the Matrix or not. Like, it's all like, we talk about so much cool stuff.
So you're like the two students that a teacher would definitely split up in class.
Yeah, it would definitely be separated.
Oh, I love that. And what message do you want people to leave with after watching Flamin Hot?
Man, what's the message? Well, to me, it's a story of faith. It's a story of underdogs. It's a story of believing in yourself, right? And it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. I relate to him and his family because my family we didn't come from much either. We didn't have much money growing up. We had government assistance. We would food stamps, like all the things back when food stamps were actually paper. Like, and then coming from a small town in the middle of nowhere to now I'm sitting on a computer talking to you about a movie that's about to come out. It's a journey, and I'm still on my journey. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. I'm still failing at things, and I'm still, you know, growing. And I think it's a movie about, it's about faith, and it's about discovery. It's about the underdogs, and how you, if you keep pushing and surround yourself with good people and a support system, that, you know, a lot can be done.
You're so awesome. I'm so thankful that you made
Oh,
time. And yeah,
shit.
no, thank you so much. And yeah, my respects to
I'm,
you. And
yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad it worked
such
out.
a, me too. What advice would you give to, I would usually say aspiring actors out there, but just because of like the message of this movie, I guess like what advice would you give to someone out there who is just working hard towards their ultimate dream or goal?
I mean, it's always good to find a mentor, right?
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of you can find a lot of business posts on Instagram that say, you know, the money you spend now on education in your foundation is going to be, it's going to pay for itself in the end, right?
Mhm.
So even if it's taking seminars, whether you want to be real estate or banking or finance or AI, there's always someone that wants to do the same thing you do. You know,
Mhm.
find the support system. You know, you don't need money to do things. If you want to be an actor, try to find some classes or get some scenes from somewhere, and just make your own, or write your own short films. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's what a better way to learn how to be an actor than by doing it. You know, learn, watch, and edit. There's so much free programs now you can edit with. DaVinci Resolve is free, right? There's a bunch of
Exactly.
other ones that are free. So there's some writing softwares. There's a bunch of free stuff, and there's also programs for people to want to do whatever it is, right? I think waiting is overrated. You know what I
Ooh, I
mean?
like that.
Yeah. So you have to be proactive. And when I did quinceañera, when I got quinceañera, it was because I did a casting workshop in Atlanta, and I was online when I moved to LA looking for casting notices. And I saw that the same casting director who did the casting workshop in Atlanta a few years prior was casting it. And I emailed them and said, "Hey, you know, I don't know if you cast this guy yet, but I'd love to read." And, you know, I got that role, which started my career over a casting workshop and an email over the years, you know. So I was always proactive. My manager and agent, no one got me that part. I got the part that started in my career. So there's ways to do
Yeah.
things, you know. If you can find a mentor, find a mentor. But if not, you know, surround yourself with people that will make up for strengths and balances.
So the message is what I get from you is just go for it. That's what you've been doing since the
Fucking
beginning.
fucking do it. Fucking do it.
Do it. Jesse, thank you so much. I
Thank
love
you.
ending on that note. And we'll be watching Flamin Hot June 9th on Hulu and Disney Plus, and we'll be cheering you and the entire cast on.
Thank you.